That's the best part. Let's just applaud each other. Yay. Hi, I'm Robert McBride of All Classical Portland. This is Carlos Kalmar. You may have heard of him. He's the music director of the Oregon Symphony.
Hi. Good evening.
Yay. So last night, you and Joshua Bell played the Sibelius Violin Concerto in Salem, and the Oregon Symphony played the complete ballet, the Firebird by Stravinsky, for the first time, according to the program. How'd it go?
It was great.
Yeah.
I mean, oh yeah, people loved it.
Yeah, good. So tonight, that's what we get to hear. Plus, at the top of the show...
Tonight we do a bonus piece.
Yes.
Before.
Right. Why didn't you do the Snake Alley in Salem? Just because?
You really want to hear it?
Sure.
Okay, it's one of those stories. It was actually planned that way because Joshua, who is such a great friend of the Oregon Symphony and such a wonderful violinist, he had a concert yesterday in the morning in Los Angeles. So his day must have been get up, warm up, play a concert, get your stuff, go to the airport, fly 2 hours or whatever it is, get in a car, drive to Salem, meet the orchestra for just 20 minutes of something, and then play the concert. And because of the rules that we have, we simply couldn't exceed a certain length of the concert.
So you needed that time to work with him.
Essentially, that is what happened. At least, I mean, the concert, Sibelius concert, is, I don't know, 35 minutes long, something like that. So when you meet for 20 minutes, it's like, okay, this, what do you do here? Oh, okay, fine.
Because you two hadn't done this piece together before.
This piece not, but of course we know each other.
Yes.
And
wow, fun.
So it's fun because we both were there like looking at each other and paying attention.
Yeah, you're really bringing your A game when you have to do that.
Yeah, but the great thing is the A game is always on. I mean, Joshua is phenomenal.
Yeah,
I mean,
just heard him warming up backstage, and startling to hear him just working on his double stops back there.
Yeah, there are plenty of those.
Yes.
And the thing with Joshua, which is, you can even say somehow typical of the really great artists. I didn't even ask him, because why should I ask him something like that? How many times he has played Sibelius? Probably a few. And still, I mean, he's on the stage, he concentrates, and he's so in the piece. So the only advantage, if you call that an advantage for him yesterday, was in LA he played Sibelius. So it was the same piece, at least.
Interesting.
Yeah,
so he played the same concerto twice?
Twice with two different orchestras, two different conductors in two different cities. Go and top that. I actually can. Well, I can. I was thinking about that and thinking I cannot top that. What I can say is that I actually managed to conduct a dress rehearsal and a concert on the same day, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, not in the same city, not the same orchestra, and really not the same program. But you can still say, dress rehearsal.
Wow, that's fun.
Yeah, that's fun.
You're reminding me of something interesting about the violin that Joshua Bell is playing tonight. The Stradivarius, about 300 years old, stolen twice in the 20th century from the same Polish violinist. And the second time it was stolen, it disappeared for 50 years. And the guy who stole it from a dressing room in Carnegie Hall during a concert, when this Huberman guy was on stage playing his other instrument, he's playing his Stratocaster or something, I don't know. And the violin was stolen, and literally it came to light in an honest-to-dog deathbed confession. This guy, his violinist, stole it, and he'd been playing it all those times he was a section violinist. It was the National Symphony in Washington.
I don't remember what he did, but it's very true. He played it 50 years. This is one of, I mean, you have to understand, Stradivarius is a rarity by itself anyway, but there are Stradivarius out there, and in between the Stradivarius there are differences in quality. There are good Stradivarius, there are really good Stradivarius, and then there are a few which are insane. This is where it's, the violin doesn't play by itself. Let's just put it that way. But if you know, like Joshua Bell, you know how to fiddle, then whoa, that is one of the best things you can hear. So this is one of those. This is one of the insane pieces, and there, I don't know how many of the insane pieces there are. 6?
Of the really good
this
violinists?
quality, very, very, very few.
Yeah, and he paid about $4 million for this, but it's worth way more than that now. Big money. Now, you are a violinist.
Was.
Sorta. You were a violinist.
Was.
Have you ever played a Stradivarius? Or a Guarneri, any of those really
I never played an instrument that cost me more than $100,000.
Well, how plebeian.
Exactly. I mean, nowadays, well, the thing is, I mean, I was very lazy when I was young, so I was okay.
The way you're sort of slouching here now, I think I might believe you. How lazy were you, Carlos?
I was lazy. I mean, we'll never find out because I know that I was lazy. And the only way to find out how lazy you were is if I could kind of live again, and instead of practicing a violin 1.5 hours, maybe, and we're talking age 15, 16, where then it really counts. If you, I mean, at that time you have to practice 4 to 6 hours every day, no vacation. And then maybe. So if I would do that again, maybe I could arrive at some point, but at that time, oh boy.
Well, keep in mind the joke that Pinko Zuckerman likes to tell. When somebody asked him why he decided to become a conductor, that playing the violin wasn't enough, and he said, $1, $2, $1, $2. No, $1, sorry, $1, $2, $1, $2, 1,000, 2,000, 1,000, 2,000. So, of course, it depends, doesn't it? Not all
pinky. Oh
pinky,
boy.
yeah. Okay, sorry. And you reminded me of something else. Jean Sibelius, the Finnish composer who wrote this incredibly dramatic concerto that we'll hear tonight, was also a violinist. He wanted to be a big shot superstar violinist, but he started kind of late. He was in his teens, just that period you're talking about, and he didn't really have first-rate teachers, and so he worked really hard at it, but he never got to the point where he could make his living at it, and so fortunately for us, he became a composer, and a very good one.
Well, it's actually interesting to see that in this concerto, he kind of, is this a concerto of redemption? This is what he always wanted to play? Because if this is what he always wanted to play, then he must have been out of his mind. Because this concerto is so difficult. I mean, we are playing, everybody in the world is pretty much playing the version that is kind of the tame version of this concerto. There is one version which is even harder than this one, but I talked to Elina Vähälä, who has been here, the Finnish violinist, and she said it's not as good, the original. Mm-hmm. It's longer and more elaborate for the violin and just more craziness, and no, just play this version. And this version is really hard, so I think Sibelius, this is like wishing.
It's an interesting work. If you like pretty melodies, you'll get some. in this concerto, but it's much more than that. It's very dramatic, it's very intense, it's very powerful, it's deep, complex, it's almost cinematic, and not always pretty, but really exciting, and some of the time it is really beautiful and really heartfelt. And I would think if you're a violinist who's up to the challenges of this piece, it must be really rewarding to do.
It is a rewarding concerto once you get to actually survive it. I mean, first movement, really difficult. Second movement, okay, yeah. And then comes the third movement and you simply give up. You're like,
You become a conductor.
yeah,
Worst things could happen.
You're really at the beginning of the third movement. I mean, we violinists all know this piece very well, so you actually can play the beginning. This ti tari tari tara tari tara tara. Yeah, unfortunately, 25 seconds later. Don't go there.
Somebody, I can't remember now who it was, some critic said that last movement reminded him of dancing polar bears.
That was Daniel Tovey. He was a famous guy. Yeah, dancing polar bears. If he, trust me, if this would be a piece by an Italian composer, it would be dancing somebody else. Just because it's Finland and it's north and it can be cold, it's polar bears.
Yeah.
Oh, fine.
Have you ever been to Sibelius's house?
No.
I would love to go there someday. He had this villa built a little ways north of Helsinki, about the same time that he was working on this concerto, which came between his second and third symphonies. So he was really feeling it those days.
I actually can imagine how it might be a little bigger than the average house, but you can actually easily portray how it looks, because much of Finland looks like that. When you get outside of the big cities, it's very gently undulated landscape with an insane amount of lakes. Mm-hmm. And surrounding, there are woods, and then there are scattered houses. Really scattered, meaning a house there and a mile apart a house there. So there is a lot of privacy, and pretty much every Finn has a house somewhere. And they all in the summer go to their summer houses that are also very simple, and enjoy life there.
Sounds good to me. Stravinsky, the Firebird, the ballet that made Stravinsky famous overnight at the age of 28. And fairly often we get to hear one of the 3 concert suites that Stravinsky made. Rarely do we get to hear the entire score, 45 plus minutes. Thank you. I love this music so much. This was the piece this was the first Stravinsky I ever heard. Probably that's true of a lot of people. When I was a teenager, and I loved it then, and I've loved it ever since. And I've never heard the entire score live, so I'm just very grateful. And you're going to love it.
It's actually interesting to even think about why on earth did Stravinsky write 3 suites when the suites 1911, 19, and 45 are pretty much all the same.
Copyright.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Because, you know, at the time that he wrote The Firebird, I mean, his life was really disrupted by 2 world wars, by Russian Revolution. He moved a lot, and the copyright situation was not cut and dry, black and white at all, because the Europeans had one thing, and the Americans had something else, and the Russians had something else. So The Firebird, great work, all these performances, he wasn't getting royalties. So later in his life, he sort of had the reputation as being a little bit money-grubbing. He was just really careful to make sure that he got compensated for what he created. And one of the reasons that he reorchestrated the Firebird and Petrushka and the Rite of Spring was so that he could renew the copyrights. But he also trimmed the orchestra size he described the original Firebird as wastefully large. And really, do you need 3 harps and a piano? I mean, come on. It's a little over the top.
Yeah, the original Firebird was over the top, and we actually decided to do a version, an instrumentation, not a version, an instrumentation that is not by Stravinsky. But just to be clear, when you have a large piece of music with woodwinds in 4s and 8 horns and 75 trumpets, I mean, stuff, and you re-instrumentate that to make it sizable big orchestra. This is a big orchestra that you're going to see. Then all you do is just you assign things slightly different. You cover your bases really well. You don't write a single note. You don't even, which this arranger, you do not ever change instrumentation.
If it's a flute solo, it's a flute solo.
It's a flute solo, it's a flute solo, end of story. All of a sudden, like the original calls for 2 piccoli, and in this case it's 1.
2 contrabassoons.
Yeah, we did 1. That's the only, I did a rearrangement of 4 bars. Oh my God. Well, actually it's not me. It was kind of hidden in the score. There is, you know, the thing is that the Firebird tells you a very cute story. And we all probably know very well the suites. And the suites are incredibly fantastic music, but you cannot really follow the story. And what you really cannot follow is this moment where the evil, Cascei, when he dies. You never get to hear that.
Oh, that's right.
When finally the prince, Ivan Zarevich, finds the egg where the soul of Cascei is hidden, and destroys, shatters the egg. So and then
everything gets really dark and mysterious.
Oh yeah, and that's the point. Usually what you hear is this ferocious dance of Cascei that ends in a humongous blast, and then it transitions already to the end, pretty much. But not in our version. In our version you hear all this serene music, and then comes the evil.
And that transition is really one of the most beautiful in the whole score.
Oh yeah.
It gets into that lullaby. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
They're kind of, you'll notice 2 different sorts of music in the Firebird. One is, it's a ballet that was told with both mime and dance. So there are very specific musical gestures that were written to accompany very specific physical gestures. Bam, 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 bam. And then there are other things that are much more flowing and melodious. And you'll really be able to hear the difference. You'll be able to imagine, okay, when is somebody literally doing a mime thing, and when are they actually dancing?
Well, the thing that is interesting back in those days, around the 1910s, it was probably customary by we are talking about the Ballet Russe in Paris, that they try to really mimic the rhythm of the music. So Stravinsky himself told always the story that when he was kind of asked to write the music for the Firebird, he was not the first choice, by the way. There are 2 other, Cherepnin and Liadov, were asked first, and they both said not interested. Stravinsky allegedly said, I didn't like the plot, and I was not really, but okay, he wrote the music. And he wrote the music by following the story and working together with a librettist at all times, because a librettist would say, here we need such to demonstrate whatever is in the plot.
It's almost like film music.
Yeah, today nobody would do that unless it's film music where you have to exactly match. And well, at the end of the day, which, I mean, that I read that today, it's nothing important, but that really amused me. Stravinsky said that there was a little mishap in the premiere. So Diaghilev and Fokine, the librettists, they had this wonderful idea that there should be live horses on stage walking rhythmically to a certain figure on bar 8 of the score. Strange enough, they came in at the right time, but one of the horses did something on stage that, well, you get the drift. Never again.
Everybody's a critic. It really is a magnificent piece, and if you don't know the story, I hope you'll read your program notes when we're done talking. You'll have half an hour before the concert starts. But it's about this Ivan guy who goes into the woods. He's our Prince Charming, and
Yes.
he encounters this mysterious Firebird creature, and she dances, and he captures her, and she gives him a feather if he will let her go free, a magic feather that can serve him later if he needs it, and he lets her go. And then he finds this evil Caschet's kingdom where he has these princesses imprisoned and these guards, and he takes on Caschet and is able to vanquish him with the feather, and then he marries the princess of his choice. And the final scene is so magnificent. The wedding and the coronation is so magnificent. It almost makes me cry when I hear it, even now, even though I've heard it a million times. And it's the coolest thing in 7/4 ever.
Yeah, but the thing is, I really don't know whether you will like the entire thing in a concert hall, because there are no visuals. But I must admit, this is the first time I get to conduct the entire version, and to me happens exactly the same that happened last season, when I had finally the pleasure of conducting Ravel's Daphnis and Chloe, all of it.
Wow.
With chorus. Because what happens is, over the years, as a normal conductor, you get to conduct suites.
Right.
A little bit of this, a little bit of... So I conducted, of course, Ravel's Daphnis and Chloe, the suites, and I conducted many times the Firebird, always the suite 1945, because it's the longest, but never the entire thing. And then you get to conduct the entire thing, and you see things in a very different context. At first you are shocked, because things don't sound exact. They sound like it, but not exactly, and the context is different. But then the arch is different, and it's so fantastic.
Yay. Now, we don't have a whole lot of time left, but you want to talk about Snake Alley a little bit and David Dzubay?
David, oh, this will rock the house. Promise. As far as I know, Portland-born composer.
Not born here, but he grew up here.
He grew up,
Yeah.
so it's one of our own. And many years ago, he wrote this piece called Snake Alley that refers to the Snake Alley, which is a market in Taipei, in Taiwan. And if you've ever visited Asia and seen somewhere markets where there are a couple of things that you do not find anywhere else, well, that is one. Where, I mean, snakes are being sold in any form you can imagine.
Some of them alive, some of them ready to eat.
Yeah, some of them being killed in front of you, and then you are given the blood. Well, it's different habits over there. And so he writes a piece describing the entire, what happened, starting actually being at the hotel and taking a cab that takes him to Snake Alley. That's the beginning of the piece, a cab ride. And I cannot wait to get into that traffic, because it is madness, complete madness. But the piece is more, I would say, more evocative than descriptive. Yes, you can see, oh, this is that. You can hear somehow the snakes, and other stuff, but most of the time you are like, wow. And I told David one thing which has nothing to do with his piece, which his piece is actually first or older, but over the last year we played a piece called Phenomenon here by Narong Prangchorwen, which was Thai composer, which was a huge outburst of energy. And I told him, you know, David, your piece reminds me a tiny little bit of that, although very different, but just being like, whoa, there is energy coming at us. Now in David's piece, one of the fun things is, okay, you go crazy with your cap, you arrive at Snake Alley, and you are like in a daze at first, and things happen, and then other things happen. You even hear swing music at some point. And at the end, it gets so crazy that you leave the place, kind of, you're out of your mind, and it ends with the cab ride home, which is another thing. It's brilliant orchestra writing. It's a lot of fun.
I think you're going to enjoy this concert. Thank you for coming tonight. And by the way, I'm pretty sure Joshua Bell will be signing autographs at intermission at the table in the lobby. Thank you for coming. Carlos Kalmar.
Robert McBride.
And thou.